Can I tell you a secret? Content shapes the world, and I think you probably already know this, but to buttress this point, I'd like to tell you a very famous proverb by one of Africa's best, Chinua Achebe, and he says that unless the lion learns to write, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And I think that has been the reason Africa has appeared the way it has in the press from the very beginning of time, because most of the stories coming out of Africa have been told by people who are not Africans and totally have little or no interest in reporting African matters as they truly are. Maybe because they don't have a good understanding of what's going on, or maybe because they have a different agenda. I wouldn't know. But one thing we know is the best way to tell the African story is when Africans tell the stories themselves. And that's what we're going to do in this video, show you how African stories should be told properly. So stay tuned. My name is Michael, and I'm the founder and executive director of SEVICS Africa. And if it's your first time on the channel, click on the subscribe button, click on the bell so you're notified every time we make content. Give us a like and leave a comment. Do you have a story? Would you want to share? Do you think Africans will ever get to tell the African stories better than the rest of the world has told it? Is there something they don't know? Or have they told all the truth and we just have to admit the fact that we are nothing but a scum of the earth, the black continent, the least progressive, and everything bad you can imagine? So let me know what you think about these in the comment section. And remember that when you give us likes and comments, they help the video perform better, and it's really good for our channel and for our organization. That way we can make more money, and that way we can help more people in our community. Yeah, so support us. So let's get right back into our content. So first thing I have come to observe is that there isn't enough African content out there. So for someone who loves to read, who's gone out there trying to find stuff about African cultures, African history, African heritage, there is not as much information that you can find that actually depicts Africa as it truly is. And this is how I know I'm African, and I live in Africa, of course, and I am very much in tune with the cultures and traditions of my people. But every time I see a report on the news, I see articles and I see stuff, what we represent in the movies, in the books, in the stories, it does not accurately reflect what we practice. And as far as we know, what we have is pure, it's precious, but what we see, it's something else. It's almost insulting, to say the least. And a lot of times when you do a little more research, you find out that the stories have not been written by Africans, and sometimes stories have been written by Africans who do not live in Africa, and so they only tell stories as reflections of maybe what they've been told or what they've read, but not something they have adequately experienced. And that is why I believe that there isn't enough African content out there, and that's something that we all should be very much interested in changing, because if we don't tell our own stories, nobody's going to tell them for us. It's like the thing they say about the trumpet. If you don't blow your own trumpet, nobody's going to blow it for you. And so when you look at the rest of the world, you realize that they all are very much interested in blowing their own trumpets. So you have the Americans blowing their trumpets, make America great again. America is the greatest country in the world. America is this, that. And so with the British, so with the French, so with the Germans, so with the Russians, so with the Chinese. Everybody tells a story where they are super, where they are awesome, where they're on top. It's only Nigerian movies where all witches, wizards, killing, destroying our own people, and nothing good coming out of the African society. But when you watch American action movies, there's always that great American hero fighting against the enemies who've come from the outside. And that's one key difference in the way they tell their stories and the way we tell ours. They tell their stories to glorify their cultures, like Hercules, who overcomes all the tasks and becomes a god. Like Superman, the alien that comes to Earth and becomes a superhero. Like the bullied boy, Spider-Man, who eventually becomes a superhero and saves the love of his life and saves his city. So I can go on and on and on, but all of the stories about someone who rises against adversity to become the greatest version of themselves. But the African stories are not able to replicate that, because we tell stories that do not always make us look good, but that kind of make us look bad, because that's the way it's always been from, maybe, I don't know, from the colonial days, because the cultural stories, the folk tales that we tell kind of glorify our culture. So I don't know where this culture of storytelling that does not glorify Africa is coming from. But there is this one little thing I know. We all have stories. I have stories. You have stories. And it is up to you to tell them. Yeah, I know you'd probably be looking back and you're wondering, who are you talking to? You mean not have a story? Yeah, I mean yes, you have a story. Yes, my friends, you all have stories. And I know next thing you think is, yeah, my story is not good enough. It's not flowery enough. It's not polished enough. But the truth is, there isn't a story that reflects everything that has happened in its entirety. And I know who has the greatest stories in the world. It may not be Mahatma Gandhi, may not be Nelson Mandela. It could probably be Jesus Christ, I think. Beautiful story. Reading also good, but the Bible stories don't tell you Jesus had a bath. But we all know he did. So we know that there are lots of details that have been missed out in the Bible book of stuff that actually happened. Because if these guys actually lived and existed here on this planet, then they probably did stuff that every other person did. And so when you tell your story, you have to emphasize on all the stuff that make you look good. So let us learn from the stories of the Bible when you read the stories about Jesus Christ. And I know I'm using this example because a lot of Africans are Christians, and we're like Christomaniacs. We love Christ, we love church, we love God, and so we're always praying and praying and praying and praying. But there's one thing I can tell you all. Look at the stories of Jesus. They've been told to portray him as God. They've been told to glorify everything that was good about him. The man who gave beautiful speeches, the man who healed the sick, the man who raised the dead, the man, who never got upset. And the only time Jesus got upset was because of something, so righteous. You guys are converting the temple, the house of my father, to a place of business. And so he got upset for just that one moment. And they would kill him and he wouldn't get upset. We all know that story isn't realistic, right? That's not a typical human being. A human being would get upset all the time. There are lots of other things that normal people do you wouldn't see reported in the Bible. It's like Paul and Peter, the guys who were always preaching and writing letters, and they never did like any stuff regular people did. And if they ate, it was because it was a sacred meal, right? You get so you get a point I'm making, right? So your story may not be perfect, but you don't have to reflect the imperfections in the stories you tell, because that is how the West has learned to tell their own stories. So if we must create content that would be appealing to the world, then we must learn to tell them properly. And trust me, no matter how imperfect you think your story is, the little bit you can share with the world is enough to inspire people. It's enough to change people's lives. And that's why I would encourage you not to be afraid to tell your own story. And just as you're thinking about it, I'd encourage you to start telling it already. All of the greatest people we know, all of the greatest people that we love and respect so much, it's all about the stories that they represent, about the stories that they tell. Jesus was a great storyteller. Mandela was a great storyteller. They all had those beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stories. And those were the stuff they wanted to emphasize. And so I would encourage you, do not hesitate anymore, because we could never have too many storytellers in Africa. There are over 1 billion of us in the continent, and even a lot more outside of the continent. So guys, there are people who are aching to know the stories that you're holding back on. So if you have to start telling the story, I'd encourage you to do it now. Start it already. And when you tell the story, make sure that you are the hero of your own story. And I hope that makes sense. So don't let anybody talk you out of this. And I'd like to share this, not because I am anti-Christian or anything. I'm a Christian as a matter of fact, and I believe in salvation through Jesus Christ. But it's also important that I point this out. That sometimes the Christian orientation that we get in this part of the world kind of encourages us to stay humble, to stay quiet, to be meek. Sometimes even not to take credit for the work that we have done. And I told a story on the episode of my podcast where I spoke about telling your story, and you can go check that out. I am leaving the link in the description, and the episode is titled, tell your story. So I told the story of running into one of my teachers, and she would ask me, "Hey, Michael, how are you doing? And I was like, cool. And she said, are you still brilliant? Are you still doing well in school? And I said, of course. I said, young man, be humble. Because there's the perception that when you take credit for what is real, you've done the job, you got the results. If you can admit that you did this job and you got this result, then you're going to hell. And so we kind of want to downplay on the results that we get, to downplay our own abilities, and we almost talk down on ourselves and try as much as we can to make ourselves look bad. Because somehow, if we humble ourselves in this life, then God is going to lift us up and take us, straight to heaven. But today I want to tell you guys, tell your story, be the hero of your own story. As far as what you tell is true, then you should go on and do it. Do not be afraid to own your story. And when you're ready to do that and you're good to start, then maybe you should consider joining our creatives community. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to do in the year 2021, which would be to create the largest network of content creators in Africa. That I think is totally awesome. We already have a small community. We have podcasters, YouTubers, we have bloggers, and we have people who make other forms of social media content. And if you fit into any of those groups, I'd encourage you to come join us. I'll leave a link in the description. Send me a message, and then we can add you up to the community, and we all can get to talk some more about how to tell the African story and about how to move this continent forward. We are way too many to experience so much backwardness, and in the year 2021, if there is something we have to do well and do differently, that would be to tell the African story and to learn to tell it correctly. So if you've seen this video to this point, then I'd imagine you did learn a thing or two, or at least you liked what I was saying or how I was saying it. I don't know. But whatever the reason that's kept you on this video to this point, should at least earn us a like and a comment. So let us know, do you agree with some of the points that I made? Did you find any useful? Are there stuff you didn't like? Put them in the comment section and let us know how we can improve on the quality of videos that we make. And if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click on the subscribe button and click on the bell so you're notified every time we make new content. So thank you all very much for watching, and see you in the next video. And you should go watch more videos on this channel. Yes, do it. Thank you.